Hello and welcome to The Problem with Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, which is just the name I'm using because that's a series I do here on my channel Comicstorian, in which I normally talk about the issues I had with the project and how we can improve or fix them. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League came out in the time span of 12 hours. I have beaten the game, and we're going to talk about that. And I want to now bring you my opinions and thoughts behind it. The gameplay footage you're going to be seeing is me playing the game live at twitch.tv/comicstoriangaming, where I go live Monday through Friday if I'm home at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be pretty generic footage because I'm going to be moving very quickly, and I don't want my editors to have to find very small moments I'm talking about in 12 hours of footage. Because this is such a hot button topic in our world here of comic books, I'm going to organize this in a very specific way. First off, we're going to talk about the gameplay elements from the game, specifically. Then I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the length of the game, okay? Because that's also a hot button topic. We're then going to talk about the live service elements combined with the monetization and my thoughts behind that. Then we're going to talk about the story as a whole, not referencing what people are considering the disrespectful moments. Then we're going to talk about the disrespectful moments. That is how this video is going to be organized. It's more organized than 90% of the other videos on my channel. But I felt like we needed to have that for this one because I can put chapters down below and you guys are going to be very specifically looking for certain things. Now, in order to kick off gameplay elements and my opinions on the gameplay itself, we need to discuss what types of games that I play. I play live service, co-op, shooter-style games with my buddies. This is literally in my wheelhouse, which is why I wanted to start with gameplay elements, because to me, gameplay elements are the most important part of a game, regardless of what happens in the story. I play games like Destiny, Fortnite, I play Division, I play Borderlands, I've played Outriders, I've enjoyed all of these titles. I weekly log on to the Final Fantasy XIV MMO. I am used to live service style games that have consistent drops of content, and I have a group of friends to play these games with on the regular. So how does the gameplay stack up when comparing it to the biggest juggernauts in this entire never-ending game sphere of games? Let's start with the gunplay. The gunplay's okay. It's not as good as Destiny or Call of Duty. It's about on par with Fortnite. If you don't mind Fortnite guns, you're going to be good with that. The overall vibe of the game feels very arcade-like. It kind of gives me a feeling of very Fortnite-like, where as you're going through things, roulettes are going to spin over your head, and you're going to get jackpots and things like that. Killing enemies will cause balloons to pop into the air and crazy over-the-top stuff like that. The game itself is laid out to basically be all about your traversal attacks and your gunplay and your melee. I will say the game did a very good job of mixing those up. Some enemies I have to melee to pop them up to then be able to shoot them with my gun. Other enemies required me to use their grenades to be able to pop their shields so that I can then shoot them like normal. Traversal abilities are built up and then thrown in. I played a lot of Captain Boomerang, a lot of zipping around and killing various things. The traversal in general feels very weird at first. No one travels well. But once you get the hang of it, it feels so good. Best example is Captain Boomerang, which is all about throwing the boomerang and then speed forcing to it. Once you get the hang of that, it's so much fun. And me and King Shark were in constant races to see who could get across the city faster. The slowest, I think, is Harley Quinn. She just swings on Batman stuff. The way the gameplay is structured out is you're going to do a giant, huge cutscene, which is very well put together, lots of humor, lots of excitement. It's going to be rock steady level cutscenes. These are very good. You're then going to go on a linear story-based mission, and you'll do that for about an hour or two. And then they're going to introduce you to some of the live service elements. So they're going to be like, hey, now you need to go do a horde mode to unlock a different feature. Now you need to go do a capture the point mode to unlock a different feature. Things like that. If you're used to these types of games, that's not going to bother you. If you're looking for a narrative-driven game like the Arkham series, that's going to bother you. My brother doesn't play these types of games. He's playing the game right now so that we can create a video on the characters and lore of Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League next week. And his biggest complaint is, I was enjoying the game until I got into the open world and they wanted me to do live service bullshit. That's what he said. Each of the characters does feel slightly unique, but they're all using guns. So you can only get so unique with that. Their special abilities are different. The way they talk and interact with the world is different. Their traversal is different. I think in order to make each of the characters feel different, they made sure that the traversal felt different. That way, when you're on Harley, it's not quite the same. The way the traversal has been structured is you will be using it a ton while in combat. There's a lot of times where I'm in the middle of shooting someone and I'll throw the boomerang and I'll warp to the other location to get behind an enemy to pop a shield. Harley will flip through the air and do that. So they feel different but the same at the same time because we're all using guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, Uzis, pistols, all of that. So it's enough to make you want to try other characters, but I don't think it's strong enough to make you want to level all the characters unless you're doing what I'm doing, which is trying to platinum trophy the game. For those who don't know, platinum trophies, when you literally do everything in a game on PlayStation, you get a nice little dopamine rush of a platinum going ping, and I do those all the time. The length of the game is the next thing I want to talk about. I beat the game in about 12 hours. I've heard of people beating the game in about 9 hours. That is a dummy rush to get to the ending. And I did it intentionally so that I can talk to you guys about this right here, what I'm doing. If you're not rushing it, you are not beating this game in 10 to 12 hours. If you blitz every story objective and you're able to overcome the difficulty spikes without doing the open world stuff, you will get to the ending that quickly. This game is not really structured and intended for you to do so. I looked up how long it would take if you did Arkham Knight Blitz Down. You can go to howlongtobeat.com. Arkham Knight's only 15 hours if you ignore the side objectives. So a 12-hour game and a 15-hour game are kind of on par for the same price for me. But there are 14 side missions to do to unlock different features and stuff on the map. That doesn't include other modes that are unlocked across the map, such as horde modes, Riddler challenges, collectibles to go for, or just overworld daily missions to knock out. Being a live service game, there is a daily rotation of missions for you to go do. So lengthwise, to me, that's not a big deal. I will say this now, if you're looking for nothing but the single player narrative of this game, I don't think it's worth your money. And that's because of the length. Due to the fact that it is a live service game and we already know that you're getting more story, if you're looking for just the story and nothing else, I hate to say it, but I would recommend just waiting until the end of the year when the first year of content is done, because as we'll talk about in the story, we are left on a bit of a cliffhanger. I would wait for the year to be done if you just want that experience, and you'll get a 20 to 30 hour game at that point. Just ask anybody who plays Destiny at the end of the season, which is an entire year's worth of content plus an expansion. It's a lot to do and a lot to keep you busy. Now let's talk about the live service elements. Nothing about this isn't monetization. This is the features added in to make it ongoing. Nothing about this feels too egregious or too grindy at this point. I was able to cap out one character just doing the storyline. We did whatever side world objective happened to be on our way to the next mission, but we didn't do anything bonus. As a matter of fact, when I booted up the game after beating the game, I realized there were 14 side missions and I had done 3. So that should tell you right there, like, how much we actually had done. But no, it didn't feel too grindy. It didn't feel too egregious. In order to battle against the final boss again, you have to go farm up tokens. That's 3 side events, big fight again. Not a big deal. From a live service point of view, it looks very bare bones right now, but we've already been told that in March, we're going to be getting new chapters, new live service, new elements to do. I feel like that's when they're intending the live service to really start. And right now, it's more just busy work if you want to do that. I feel like with most games, if you've been following this type of thing before, a lot of times the grindy live service elements, they come out about 2 weeks to a month after the main game drops, giving everyone time to beat the main game and level up characters, which is where I think we are with that. There is one thing I forgot to mention in the gameplay element, and it kind of ties into everything anyway, so it doesn't matter. But leveling up. When I made my other video, I said that there was no leveling up. Now that the game is out, I can see officially what the leveling up is. There isn't a traditional level up in the sense of leveling up. You aren't going to go from level 1 through 30 and just get more powerful. You will unlock new skills as you're going, but the entire game scales. We tested this by having my level 29 Boomerang work with a level 1 Harley Quinn, and everything worked fine. There was no complaints, no issues. The only issue we actually ran into is they time gate when you can unlock things like grenades and shields, and the Harley Quinn didn't have grenades, and we did a grenade mission, so it became all me doing everything. That's something that can be ironed out. That's not an issue. Now let's talk about the monetization. It's a little egregious at this point. Right now, we don't know what they're going to be charging for battle passes. If they're on par with the rest of the games, it'll be between $10 to $15. I'm worried they're going to be more expensive. The reason is the costumes in this game are a little bit more expensive than normal. Right now, in order to get the entire classic Harley Quinn costume, you need to spend $20. Now, I bring that up because here's the problem with that. That's what it's going to cost me to finish the classic Harley Quinn costume. By getting the digital deluxe, I got 4 costumes for each character. One of those was the classic Harley Quinn costume. There's an alternate version of it on the cash shop. So I don't know if it's gonna cost you more to get all of it or if it's just $20. It's a weird system, but I've seen a lot of complaints from the people who play these kinds of games. The costumes feel a little egregious. They feel a little overpriced. Emotes are about $5 from what I've seen so far. And that's pretty much all you can purchase at this time. A few costumes, a few color variations. I did spend $10 on what I thought was a different costume. Turns out it was a color palette swap. Wasn't happy about that because I was like literally like $10. Oh, this is gonna look cool. Oh, it's a color palette. Either I needed to read better or they specified it better. I can't decide. But all right, so now we're going to talk about the story itself, and we're not going to talk about the moments of obviously the deaths of the Justice League. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to warn you right now, I'm just going to talk about the story. So if you don't want to watch this portion, click the link down below to go to my overall thoughts of the entire situation. So the story itself I found to be incredible. I actually really did enjoy it. The banter between the characters was hilarious and funny, reminding me of the Guardians of the Galaxy game. The way the characters were handled and their characterization, I thought they did a great balancing act because they kind of assumed you're going to know these characters from the movies and stuff like that. So they didn't dive too much into their background, but enough character growth happened to them over the course of it that made you really understand what was going on. It actually adds a lot of context to the scenes that people are putting on the internet, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. The plot moves in a direction of basically the Suicide Squad has arrived, the Justice League has been overtaken, and how are we going to stop them? It then turns into about 5 hours of you kind of figuring all of that out. And then you need to figure out ways to stop each member of the Justice League. I thought these ways were very clever. And what it always, and spoiler, I've already said that, but what it boils down to is Batman devised all of these. You end up finding methods to get rid of the Flash, the Green Lantern, all of these people, and you'll discover later that it was Batman that devised the entire way to drop the Justice League. Great. And he makes a speech about the only way to beat Batman is to work as a team and be a family because he's talking to Tim Drake, Red Hood, Nightwing, and Barbara. That's who he's talking to in the video, which also comes into play, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. The story then eventually unfolds and reveals that Brainiac goes through the entire multiverse, doing this to multiple worlds. Very early on in the game, we lose Lex Luthor. He gets shot. And very quickly, we discover there's another Lex Luthor in an alternate Earth, and we take him back. So almost immediately in my head, I'm like, well, even if it doesn't happen in this game, it's a live service game. We're going to bring back the whole Justice League. You just revealed the multiverse. And not as an endgame element, which it will be in a minute, but as a main plot point. So that's definitely what's going to be happening. I liked the characterization of Waller and how just evil and twisted and over the top she was. It was great. Boomerang was my favorite with a very close second of King Shark. I found Deadshot to be the silent make a quip and it was sometimes funny kind of guy. Harley is the one that I just kind of was, she felt awkward and weird in the story. It was a weird characterization of her because instead of being the one to crack a lot of the jokes and be the one to make a lot of the funnies, she was the one kind of like pep talking the team for the most part, keeping them on track and things like that, which I found to be a weird way to do it. A certain Deadshot kind of doing that one, and then Boomerang and King Shark just kind of being like, "Rah! I'm crazy." The story eventually, and this is the problem I do have with it, and we'll talk about more of my issues in a second. The big issue with the story is that it ends with you defeating the Justice League. You win. But then instead of defeating Brainiac and ending this, it pretty much ends and it enters the live service mode. So basically, you get no credits roll. You walk out of the tower after defeating the last Justice League member, and you're like, hey, we're here in the world. We got to find a way to fight Brainiac. And the big reveal is that there are 13 Brainiacs across 13 universes, and that he has pods of synthetic versions of all of the individuals, and that he's going to still win no matter what, and there's no way you can do it. I have a theory about this, and we'll either make a different video or this video, whatever Dan decides to do with everything going over. But anyway. And then the game moves into, in order to unlock Brainiac, you need to go do live service elements. This is where they teach you how the live service works, earning tokens to go fight Brainiac. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Overall, I really did enjoy this story, but here's my problem with it. It's left on a total cliffhanger. You're basically left with, there are 13 Brainiacs. We'll get them one day, kids. And it's just kind of like, if this is all the story ever is, it was a fun time. I laughed a lot, and I'm going to forget the game exists in 3 weeks. Like, the story didn't go that deep into enough stuff to make me go, wow, that was an incredible plot. I'm so happy. Because there's a bunch of things left. There's a bunch of plot threads left hanging. It's on a cliffhanger ending. But that makes sense. If you play these kinds of games like I do, they're going to answer a lot of this over the next year. Infamously, Destiny 2's latest expansion, Lightfall, came out, and they kept hinting at a thing called the Veil, and we didn't find out what the Veil was for like 4 months later. And that's basically what they're doing here. In a year, this is probably going to be a great, complete story of the first year of Suicide Squad in terms of a story. But as it stands right now, if this was all we ever get, it was fun. But you won't think about it in 2 or 3 weeks. You're going to just forget this whole thing even happened and be like, well, that was a fun 4-player game. Next. And that's it. Now let's talk about the situation of what happened to the Flash, Superman, and Batman. The Green Lantern was in there too. In terms of boss fights, I really enjoyed Flash, Green Lantern, and Superman. I thought they were all really good and fun boss fights. In terms of Batman's boss fight, it was the lamest and weakest one. And I'll start with that. This is my problem with the Batman situation. I didn't see the scene itself of Harley killing Batman at this time. So I played the game like everyone else should. You get a lot of characterization of the characters. You understand why they're villains, what they're doing, and why they are shitheads. And what eventually happens is you have, after beating down Batman for like an hour and a half with various ways to fight him and figure him out and deactivate his stuff, you eventually win. You drag Batman back to see Lex Luthor, a couple jokes get cracked, and then you need to use Batman as a lure to get Superman out. So you bring Batman out, and you're not supposed to kill him. He's going to egg you on. He eggs on Harley. She pulls out a gun. She pulls the trigger. I didn't find it to be disrespectful because, in my opinion, Arkham Knight ended the franchise, no matter what they want to say about this being in the Arkhamverse. I found it really just unimpressive. Batman's initial introduction into this game is you breaking into the Gotham Museum, where they're telling you the adventures of Batman, or the Batman Museum, where they're going on the adventures of Batman. He slowly takes out each member of your squad, being the most badass Batman ever. Then he does it again. You do a Nightmare Batman fight, and then she kills him. There's no fanfare when he dies. There's no music. There's no build-up. It's not even presented in the game as being this epic moment where we're going to finally take out Batman. They build up the idea that Batman is scary only for us to show up and do this really lackluster fight, and then she just shoots him. I didn't find it disrespectful. I just found it so crazy underutilized. If you're going to use Arkham Batman, and we're going to kill Arkham Batman, that should have been like the hypest thing in this entire game. You should have really made this worth it. He should have beat our butts into the ground, and that fight should have been going on the entire length of this game. The final finale should have had like a swell of music and build up and so much going on when we finally dropped him. But instead, they crack a few jokes, they put him down on a park bench, and she pulls a gun out. And that was it. And then it moves on. Like, they make a few more jokes about it, and then Superman arrives. It's like the game doesn't even stay there to really like dwell on the fact that we just killed Arkham Batman. That's my problem with the Arkham Batman thing. The Flash fight was really good. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, they pissed on the Flash. Even in the clip going around, they didn't, if you pay attention. Digger Harkness, the arch nemesis of the Flash, the guy who wants to kill the Flash, who has already cut off his thumb, now is going to piss on his corpse. And as he pulls down his pants, or he gets ready to, everyone tells him not to and to show respect. So the game is like, this is what Digger would do. The rest of the squad's not with it. They don't even really lean into that. It's just a quick one-off joke. Green Lantern, I thought, was handled very funny. I also found it very funny that everyone apparently had underwear of their superhero symbol on it. That was a humorous thing to do. And then the Superman fight, also like Batman, I felt should have been built up to more. Superman doesn't show up in the game, like ever, until the last hour when he's battling against Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman had the greatest characterization I've seen in a video game, the conflict of having to kill her friends versus how she's going to help us, the whole thing. I actually really liked her characterization in this, and a lot of people in my chat at twitch.tv/Comicstorian Game and also really enjoyed this version of Wonder Woman. But that's when Superman shows up, and then we get gold kryptonite bullets, we slow him down, and we kill him. Okay. I thought his fight was the most epic out of them all and the most challenging, but he barely showed up. That's my problem with the Batman thing. Like, if we're going to do this, really hype them up. Before you fight the Flash is a good guy. The Flash saves you. The Flash gets captured. The Flash is captured because of you. He gets a ton of characterization, back and forth with the Green Lantern. They're going all over the place. Then Evil Flash shows up. You have to deal with Evil Flash, cracking jokes, making a problem for you guys. It's a continual issue. And then when you finally kill the Flash, it felt like a triumph. I know some people are going to disagree with that, but it felt like I triumphed in the game. Like, I beat the Flash. He's been taunting us this whole game at this point. Batman's kind of taunting you on the radio, but I never felt his presence like I did the Flash or Green Lantern. So I didn't really feel like Batman was there and Superman was there, and therefore, when I killed them, it just was like, whatever. In terms of it being Arkham versus Batman, I still 100% disagree with this being in the Arkhamverse. There's too many plot changes and things like that. Honestly, I really feel like they just need to announce that this is adjacent to the Arkham universe, it's a similar universe, and let the leave the official Arkham universe alone. That's just my opinion. I don't think this game is bad, but I do think a lot of people are on it. Now let's talk about the hatred that's coming out of this whole thing real quick. People are just not happy with the game. Look, you can not like live service games. You can not like co-op games. You can not like all that stuff. That's fine. That's a different argument. But most people aren't even looking at the gameplay. They just don't like this because we're killing the Justice League. My overall opinion is you are 100% allowed to have that opinion. A lot of people take certain things like a superhero and turn it into their entire personality, and then they watch their personality literally and figuratively get pissed on, or at least an attempt to piss on it. So I get that. I actually 100% understand the point of view of people who are upset about this. But it also reminds me back in the day when Injustice came out. And I still have friends who refuse to play Injustice because they don't like that portrayal of Superman. Some of the comments were, why do we have to have another evil Superman? Why is this a thing we are doing again? And I agree. I would like to just see a proper 4-player Justice League game. That, I think, would have done so much better. They would have gotten no backlash. But at the same time, I think part of the issue is that when a game like Injustice came out, Superman fans hated it, Batman fans loved it. So there was a kind of a discourse as to whether or not we should like the game. But I think the problem with Suicide Squad is they killed the Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, and Superman. You killed them all. How? There's no fans left. There's no secret Captain Boomerang fan club of millions of people who are like, yeah, Captain Boomerang stuck into the Flash. I think it's an interesting decision from Rocksteady, even from a creative point, to want to go this route, to even want to do this. It's weird. I don't really know where else to go. It just, you pretty much pissed off every DC fan, and the only people enjoying the game are the ones who like these kinds of games or can look past it like me. Somebody asked me, he's like, oh, so you don't mind your childhood being shot in the head with no fanfare? And I'm like, I'm not too worried. All I have to do is look at my shelf, and there's Batman statues, movies, comic books, and he's alive and well in all of that. I have the Arkham series over here, and he's alive and well in all of that. So I don't look at it the same way a lot of other people are, but I completely get where you're coming from. I actually do. This isn't a situation where I'm like, fanboys won't shut up. No, I actually 100% get it. Because there's certain franchises that when I was younger, I got really attached to and didn't want to see what happened. Great example, I refuse to play Last of Us 2. I won't do it. I don't care about the arguments and stuff like that. I liked Last of Us 1. I've heard what happens to Joel. I don't care. I don't want to see it. So that's why I'm saying I get where you're coming from. I think the difference between like Last of Us 1 and 2 versus like Batman is I have a lot of Batman shit. There's a lot of Batman stuff to look at and go do. So seeing an iteration where we can kill Batman, I'm like, that's kind of cool. Because I'll just go read Chip Zdarsky's Batman. Or I'll go read Tom King's Batman. Me and 3 people like that. Or I'll go read New 52 Batman. Me and 5 people like that. But you get what I'm saying. And that's why I don't look at it the same way. So that's basically it. I'm going to end this with my theory, but I do want to, before I get to that, give you my complete end thoughts on this whole thing. Do I think that this is a game that is worth $70 for you to play in general? If you can look past the situation with killing the Justice League and you like these kinds of games, yes. I think if this game can gain some traction, it'll be one of the best live service team co-op games out there, if it can gain the traction. If you're looking for a single-player narrative game like Arkham, this isn't it. It isn't it at all. But if you do want to experience the story, I would just recommend waiting a year, getting it on sale, and then just doing a year's worth of story in one sitting. I wouldn't buy it now. If you're going to play by yourself for the story and not do the live service stuff, I don't think it's worth your time. I love the game. I do. And I am giving it a glowing recommendation. if you like this kind of game. Like, I got to keep saying that because the problem is they marketed this to Arkham fans, and this isn't an Arkham game. The DNA isn't an Arkham game. The plot contradicts Arkham games. They used Arkham to get you to buy it. That's it. And it's totally backfiring in my opinion. Now my theory. So we had leaks already going on. The leaks are that Flash and Green Lantern will be returning in season 1 and 2. Throughout the game, things don't add up with the Justice League. You initially meet the Flash and you cut his finger off. I think it's his thumb or his index. It's one of them. You cut it off. When Evil Flash shows up, he doesn't have his finger cut off. And we all cracked a joke that somebody in the R&D department or the art department of Rocksteady just forgot. Because, yeah, the Flash can heal, but he can't regrow limbs. So they just forgot that that was something they did. But then when you take out the Green Lantern, the ring acts funny. King Shark is able to put the ring on, which is not how a normal ring works, on top of the fact that the green constructs don't go away when Jon Stewart dies, which could be a gameplay element, but characters comment on it. That to me says this isn't a gameplay element. But the last one that makes me really question what's going on, Superman doesn't react to green kryptonite properly. He gets stabbed through the chest with a shard of green kryptonite by Wonder Woman, and she directly comments, "That should have killed him." That's when the light bulb in my head went off and went, this isn't the right Justice League. This is my theory. They do not confirm this. When you go see Brainiac, Brainiac says, "You've killed my Justice League." My Justice League. And around him are pods of synthetics. My theory is we didn't kill the Justice League. We killed synthetic Justice Leaguers because they didn't act or react normally. The reason why you kidnap Batman is because Lex Luthor discovers the DNA is weird and altered since Brainiac got them. Now, the game just chalks it up to he altered their DNA to be able to control them. But I'm wondering if, due to potential backlash, they've left the door open for the real Justice League to arrive at the end of the season. So going back to my suggestion of waiting a year to get the full story, if the leaks are true and we're getting Flashback and Green Lantern in seasons 1 and 2, my theory is most likely going to be correct, or we're going to get multiversal versions of them. And if that's the case, give it the year and you'll have 20 hours of reviving the Justice League and stuff like that. But that's what I think. I might be reading too much into it, but the Superman kryptonite thing was weird. The Green Lantern thing was weird. But the fact that the Flash got his thumb back, either someone forgot or because the thumb isn't even like a quick joke. They don't just cut off Flash's thumb. They then use it to get into the Hall of Justice. So it's like a plot device. It's not, it's like this isn't something you would just forget of, like, oh, haha, I cut his thumb off, and then we just forget it ever happened. But that's what I currently think about it. I'm going to be playing this game for a while, probably. And you can find me at twitch.tv/Comicstorian Gaming. Again, all the footage on screen is my footage in general. If Dan was able to grab specific images, please give him a thank you, Dan, down below. Otherwise, it's just going to be whatever generic stuff he could get going over me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know what your thoughts are down below, because this really is a divisive game with a lot of opinions going out there. And you now know mine, so let me hear yours.